In 2023, the format of the SATS test is exactly the same as it has been since 2016. So the SATS papers are made up of 3 separate papers. Paper 1 is all arithmetic, no words involved. Paper 2 and 3 are the reasoning papers. The total number of marks for all 3 papers is 110 marks. 40 marks are allocated to paper 1, and papers 2 and 3 have 35 marks each. Key Stage 2 papers cover the whole of the curriculum content for all of Key Stage 2, not just Year 6. So if we break down the allocation of marks, this year 32.5 marks were drawn from Years 3 and 4 learning, 30 marks were from Year 5, and 47.5 were from Year 6.
So just to continue on from Trevor about the format of this year's 2023 SATs, we can also look at how the papers are constructed with regards to the content domain distribution. As we already know, there are 40 marks in the arithmetic paper, and all the questions are number-based questions. And what we mean by number is that we are focusing on place value, calculation involving all 4 operations, fractions, decimals and percentages, and ratio. However, number continues to be assessed in papers 2 and 3. In fact, 48 marks out of a total of 70 were number-based questions this year. So that makes it a total of 88 marks altogether across all 3 papers for just number. It really does have the greatest weighting. Of course, the other content domains that make up the maths curriculum are also assessed in the papers. Measurement, geometry, statistics made up the 22 remaining marks in 2023. We also know from looking at the format of the papers that there are a variety of question types. There are always show your method questions. Many of these are 2-mark questions, and one is always been a 3-mark question. Explain how you know questions appear frequently. This year there was one explain how you know question, but often there are 2. And in fact, in 2019, there were 3 explain how you know questions. From looking at this year's 2023 QLA, what's really interesting is that the QLA shows that most children, over 95%, have attempted nearly all the questions across all 3 papers. This is really pleasing to see. It shows that children have developed good stamina to complete the tests in the time given. So children are not getting the questions wrong because they have run out of time, but rather because they find some of the maths questions more challenging, or they cannot find a strategy to solve the problem, or in fact, maybe they can't find an efficient method to solve the problem easily.
We look at each of the papers in turn and discuss the most challenging question from each. On paper 1, question 35 was the most challenging. It fell under the code 6R2, which means it's a Year 6 ratio and proportion question which involves solving problems using percentages. The question was 38% of 750. We believe the children found this hard because they were confronted with an unusual percentage. They would probably be fairly confident at finding 50%, 10%, or even 25% of a number because these have fairly easy fraction equivalents to use. But here they have a more difficult fraction, 38 hundredths if they are using a fraction method. They could perhaps change 38% to a decimal, and use it to multiply 750. They could find 38% of 100, multiply that answer by 7, and then find 38% of 50 and add it on. Or they could break down the percentage and find 3 10%, and then 8% of 750 and recombine all the answers. All of these mean that the children need to be confident and competent with their number skills. On paper 2, question 25B was the most challenging. Here the children needed to convert 2.4 kilograms into grams, then divide that by 500. The children were finding dividing a 3-digit number, 500, quite difficult. There's a decimal answer involved. This question falls under the codes 5M9C, 5M5 and 5F10. So it includes solving problems with mass, conversion between units, and decimal numbers to 3 decimal places. It's a challenging question, and perhaps out of the experience of many children. But again, it shows that children need to be competent with their number skills, because essentially it's a number question. On paper 3, question 22 is the most challenging. This question fell under the codes 6A3 and 6G2. It involved generating and describing linear number sequences and classifying geometric 2D shapes, in this case using the vertices of the shapes. And while this question also involves knowledge of shapes, it's another question that is very dependent on number skills. We assume that children have focused on the sequence of numbers in this question. The 3, 4 and 5 are very obvious, and then they think the next number will be 6, rather than paying attention to the shape names and the properties of them. And notice that hexagon and heptagon are missing from the sequence, and the next number should be 8 for the shape octagon. It is not obvious that this is a sequence with missing numbers. 6 and 7 are missing and not shown explicitly. Very confusing for the children.
So looking and thinking about the implications for schools based on the QLA. So if we start with paper 1, much of that paper is very predictable, and we know schools have become very good at preparing pupils for the arithmetic paper. So it's been really positive to see these efforts reflected in paper 1 scores. Fractions, decimals and percentages, however, continue to be an area for practice and development. So really thinking about pupils' conceptual understanding and reasoning of this area is key. We would say that this needs to be addressed across the whole school and not just in year 6, as often this is too late. For papers 2 and 3, again, some of it is predictable. We know there will be show your method questions, an explain how you know question, and also through our analysis of not just the 2023 SATs paper, but looking back at historical SATs papers from 2022, 2019 and prior papers, there's always some common questions, what we would call your bog standard SATs questions that appear year after year. For example, calculating the cost of buying fruit or veg in different masses and then finding the change from a £5 or £10 note. Another example would be interpreting a pictogram where the symbol is greater than 1. So children really can prepare for the tests by practicing a variety of past SATs questions and of course using some of the resources available from Hodder.